Chosen one, I need to tell you about the screaming match that just erupted over you, and trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. Psychological studies prove that when someone ascends to their highest timeline, those trapped in lower vibrations literally cannot function normally anymore. Right now, at this very moment, someone who thought they had successfully buried your reputation is discovering that their house of lies just came crashing down around them. The twist? The person they trusted most just turned against them in the most spectacular way possible. They defended your honor so fiercely that spit was flying, voices were breaking, and the truth came pouring out like a dam had burst. What you're about to learn will show you exactly how the universe has been orchestrating your vindication while you've been focused on your own transformation. This isn't just drama, chosen one. This is cosmic justice playing out in real time, and you're about to discover why this explosion was inevitable from the moment you decided to cut the cords. The person who's been obsessing over your downfall thought they were safe in their little echo chamber of enablers and yes people. They thought they could keep spinning their tales about how you're nothing special, how your success is fake, how you don't deserve the recognition that's been flowing your way. They've been painting themselves as the victim of your alleged cruelty, building an entire narrative where they're the wounded party and you're the villain who abandoned them in their time of need. What they didn't realize is that you'd been quietly documenting their behavior, not out of malice, but out of spiritual wisdom. Every lie they told, every manipulation they attempted, every time they tried to turn others against you, all of it was being recorded by the universe itself. The divine feminine energy within you, that intuitive, creative force that births new realities into existence, was collecting evidence not for revenge, but for revelation. You see, this person has been living in a fantasy where they convinced themselves they were the nurturing one, the stable one, the one who had their life together while you were supposedly falling apart. They positioned themselves as the elder, the wise one who had achieved security and wealth through their own efforts. But the truth is, they'd been feeding off your energy like a parasite, using your ideas, your connections, your very essence to build what they thought was their own success. The moment you recognized this dynamic and chose to step away, their carefully constructed house of cards began to crumble. They'd been so dependent on your energy that without it, they couldn't maintain the facade of having their life together. This is when their desperation intensified, when their attacks became more vicious, when they started making increasingly outrageous claims about your character. But something shifted recently that they didn't see coming. You performed what amounts to a spiritual amputation. You cut the energetic cords that were draining your power and feeding their obsession. Whether you did this consciously through meditation and intention setting, or unconsciously by simply deciding you were done with their energy, the effect was the same. The moment those cords were severed, their entire world started falling apart. Your detractor had been telling people you were difficult to work with, that you couldn't maintain relationships, that your success was built on manipulation rather than genuine talent. They painted a picture of you as someone who used people and discarded them when they were no longer useful. But here's what's beautiful about truth. It always finds a way to surface, especially when someone is operating from such a pure frequency that lies simply can't stick to them. The authorities they tried to involve, the complaints they made, the official reports they filed, all of these backfired spectacularly. When investigators looked into their claims, what they found was a person whose life showed a clear pattern of growth, contribution, and positive impact. Meanwhile, your accuser's own behavior during these interactions revealed their true character. They were belligerent, inconsistent in their accounts, and clearly motivated by personal animosity rather than legitimate concerns. There's something particularly devastating about watching someone expose their own toxicity while trying to prove someone else is toxic. Your detractor kept digging themselves deeper with every conversation, every official statement, every attempt to make you look bad. They couldn't help but reveal their bitterness, their obsession, their complete inability to move forward in their own life. Now here's where things get absolutely wild, and I need you to understand the psychology of what happened next. When you removed your energy from their equation, it created a vacuum that exposed everything they'd been hiding. The person closest to them, whether it's their current partner, a family member, or someone they thought was completely under their influence, suddenly started seeing the situation with crystal clarity. This defender had been listening to complaints about you for months, maybe even years. They'd heard endless rants about how you don't deserve your success, how you're somehow getting opportunities that should belong to your detractor, how unfair it is that you're thriving while they're struggling. At first, they might have even believed some of it, or at least stayed neutral to keep the peace. But as your glow-up became undeniable, as your transformation became visible to everyone around you, the defender started noticing something disturbing. The complaints weren't just occasional mentions or brief moments of frustration. They were consuming entire conversations, dominating every social gathering, turning what should have been quality time together into obsessive analysis sessions about your life. Your detractor would scroll through your social media profiles with the intensity of a detective investigating a crime, creating elaborate theories about how you were somehow faking your happiness or success. But what really opened the defender's eyes was watching how this obsession was affecting the children around them. There were little ones present during some of these rants, innocent minds absorbing the toxic energy, learning that it was normal for adults to spend their time focused on tearing down someone who wasn't even present to defend themselves. These children began exhibiting signs of distress. They'd run away and hide when the shouting started, or ask confused questions about why mommy or daddy seemed so angry all the time. The defender realized that what they were witnessing wasn't healthy processing of past hurt, it was something much darker. This was a person who had become so consumed with envy that they were willing to poison their own home environment, traumatize innocent children, sacrifice their current relationships, all for the satisfaction of believing they were somehow winning a competition that existed only in their own mind. There's a psychological phenomenon where people become addicted to their own victim narratives because it gives them a sense of power and identity. Your detractor had built their entire self-concept around being the person who was wronged by you, the one who really knew the truth about your character, the heroic figure standing against your supposed corruption. Without this narrative, they'd have to face the terrifying reality that maybe you weren't the villain in their life, maybe they were just stuck in patterns they refused to change. Their supposed loved one wasn't grieving a lost relationship or processing hurt feelings. They were consumed with jealousy so toxic it was poisoning everything around them. Instead of focusing on building their own life, they were spending their mental and emotional energy obsessing over your every move. They were scrolling through your social media, asking mutual friends about your activities, creating elaborate theories about how your success couldn't possibly be legitimate. The breaking point came when your detractor started crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. They tried to involve authorities with false accusations. They started spreading lies so outrageous that even their most loyal supporters began questioning their credibility. They simply became so consumed with hatred that their mask slipped completely, revealing the bitter, vindictive person they'd become. The confrontation didn't start as a screaming match. It began as a conversation that quickly spiraled out of control once truth entered the equation. The defender had been connecting dots, seeing patterns, and finally worked up the courage to voice what they'd been observing. They pointed out the obvious, that this obsession with you was destroying their ability to be present in their own life. But your detractor couldn't handle being called out. They went into full defensive mode, doubling down on their victim narrative, insisting that you were the problem, that you were the one who caused all their pain, that their fixation on your downfall was somehow justified. They might even try to turn the tables, accusing their defender of being manipulated by you, of not understanding the real situation, of betraying them by not automatically taking their side. That's when the defender's patience finally snapped. The gloves came off, and the truth came pouring out like water through a broken dam. They called out the lies, the manipulation, the way your detractor had been distorting reality to make themselves look like the victim. They exposed how every tale about you had been twisted, how every character assassination was rooted in jealousy rather than legitimate grievance. Words like liar and delusional started flying because the defender had finally reached their limit. They were done enabling toxic behavior, done pretending that this obsession was normal or healthy, done sacrificing their own peace for someone who was more invested in another person's destruction than in their own growth. The argument escalated because your detractor couldn't face the truth about themselves, couldn't accept that their behavior had been exposed, couldn't handle having their carefully constructed narrative demolished. The defender had been silently collecting receipts for months, screenshots of the obsessive social media stalking, records of the lies that kept changing and contradicting each other, evidence of how your detractor's mood would swing wildly based entirely on what they perceived to be happening in your life. They'd watch this person become a completely different human being whenever your name came up, transforming from someone capable of normal conversation into a bitter, twisted version of themselves consumed with jealousy. During this explosive confrontation, your defender laid out a timeline that was devastating in its clarity. They pointed out how this person had stopped pursuing their own goals, stopped maintaining their friendships, stopped being present for their own family, all because they were too busy crafting elaborate schemes to undermine someone who had moved on completely. The moment that broke everything open was when your defender said something like, "You're not angry because they hurt you, you're angry because they're happy without you. You can't stand that they built a beautiful life after leaving you behind, and you're willing to destroy your own life just to avoid admitting that maybe they made the right choice." The defender had done their own investigation and discovered that multiple people who knew both of you had completely different accounts of what actually happened. According to these witnesses, you had tried multiple times to address problems in the relationship, had offered solutions and compromises, had even suggested counseling or mediation to work things out. But your detractor had refused every attempt at healthy communication, preferring to create drama and chaos rather than do the inner work necessary for genuine resolution. The moment of ultimate truth arrived when your defender made a statement that cut through all the noise and exposed the core of what was really happening. They said something along the lines of, "You weren't a stepping stone in their life, they were a chapter in yours that needed to end so you could write the rest of your story." This revelation hit like a lightning bolt because it reframed everything in spiritual terms that even your detractor couldn't deny. You weren't the villain who abandoned someone in need. You were a soul who had learned the lessons that relationship was meant to teach and had the wisdom to move forward when staying would have kept both of you trapped in old patterns. Your detractor realized in that moment that they'd been fighting a battle they'd already lost, not because you were stronger or better, but because you'd evolved beyond the frequency where their attacks could reach you. All their scheming, all their attempts to damage your reputation, all their desperate efforts to prove you were unworthy of success, none of it had worked because you descended to a timeline where their opinions simply didn't matter anymore. The confrontation reached its peak when your defender delivered the final blow. They pointed out that while your detractor had been wasting energy trying to tear you down, you'd been building something beautiful. While they'd been stuck in the past, you'd been creating your future. While they'd been spreading poison, you'd been sharing light. The contrast was so stark, so undeniable, that even the most biased observer couldn't ignore it. But this wasn't just about exposure, it was about protection. Your defender wasn't just calling out lies, they were standing as a guardian of truth, refusing to allow your character to be assassinated in their presence. They were serving as an instrument of divine justice, speaking words that needed to be said to break the spell of manipulation and deception that had been cast around the situation. The aftermath of this confrontation has sent shockwaves through your detractor's entire world. The relationship with their defender is likely irreparable because trust, once broken by the revelation of such deep deception, can rarely be fully restored. Other people in their circle are starting to question what else they've been lied to about, wondering how much of what they believed about you was based on fiction rather than fact. Meanwhile, you've been experiencing the opposite effect. Opportunities have been flowing to you with increasing frequency and intensity. New career possibilities are opening up, financial abundance is manifesting, and people are recognizing and rewarding your authentic talents. You're being invited into circles where your energy is valued, where your contributions are appreciated, where your presence is seen as a gift rather than a threat. This isn't coincidence, it's cosmic law in action. When you refuse to lower your vibration to match someone else's toxicity, when you maintain your integrity despite attempts to drag you into drama, when you focus on your own growth rather than defending yourself against lies, the universe responds by elevating your circumstances to match your elevated consciousness. Your detractor's world is contracting while yours is expanding. They're losing credibility, relationships and peace of mind because they chose obsession over growth. You're gaining recognition, opportunities, and inner fulfillment because you chose evolution over stagnation. The contrast is so dramatic that even those who initially doubted you are starting to see the truth. The financial aspects of your success have been particularly triggering for your detractor because money represents something they've always struggled with, the ability to receive abundance based on their own merit rather than manipulation. You've discovered income streams that align with your authentic gifts, work that energizes rather than drains you, opportunities that seem to multiply organically because you're operating from genuine value creation rather than scarcity and competition. Your detractor, meanwhile, has been stuck in patterns of financial instability that mirror their emotional instability. They've been focused on what they can take, extract or manipulate from others, rather than what they can contribute. They've been operating from a mindset where there's not enough to go around, where someone else's success automatically means less for them, where the only way to get ahead is to tear others down. This fundamental difference in your approaches to abundance has created a widening gap that your detractor simply can't bridge through their current consciousness. While you've been learning to value yourself appropriately and negotiate from a place of self-worth, they've been stuck in cycles of undervaluing themselves and then resenting others for not recognizing their worth. The irony is that their obsession with your financial success has actually prevented them from focusing on creating their own. Your spiritual growth has been accelerating in ways that are becoming visible to everyone around you. People comment on how much more peaceful you seem, how your presence feels calming and uplifting, how you seem to attract positive experiences effortlessly. This isn't just personal development, this is soul-level evolution that's changing your entire energetic signature. Hold that thought for a moment. I need your attention for something very important. We're revealing everything we know about personal power, healing yourself, and healing others through weekly Zoom call. No filters, no holding back. We have been quietly adding all the occult secrets we've collected over literal years of spiritual practice. The techniques and wisdom that transformed us from controlled pawns into conscious creators are now available to those ready to walk the same path. This is your invitation to join Obsidian Inner Order and support our platform so we can continue growing our megaphone to reach other chosen ones waiting for activation. By joining the Obsidian Inner Order, you're not just gaining access to forbidden knowledge, you're becoming part of a movement that's rewriting reality itself. It's a 360 win for all of us. Link is in the description. You're being trusted with information, opportunities, and influence that require tremendous integrity to handle properly. The universe is essentially handing you keys to certain doors because it recognizes that you've developed the wisdom and character necessary to use these gifts for the highest good. Your detractor has been watching this transformation with a mixture of fascination and horror because it proves that change is possible, and they've chosen not to change. Every milestone in your spiritual journey serves as a reminder of their own stagnation. Every breakthrough you experience highlights their own resistance to growth. Every moment of peace you embody contrasts sharply with their ongoing chaos. But here's the most beautiful part. You didn't have to lift a finger to defend yourself. You didn't have to engage in arguments, provide evidence of your character, or waste energy trying to convince people of your worth. Your authentic self spoke so loudly through your actions and results that the truth became undeniable to anyone with eyes to see. The legal implications that briefly surfaced have been resolved entirely in your favor, not because you had better lawyers, but because truth emerges when facts are examined objectively. Every false claim made about you to official entities only served to highlight your actual character and expose the malicious intent behind the accusations. The person who was spreading toxicity about you has been exposed not as a victim of your cruelty, but as someone whose character has been revealed through their own actions. Their defender didn't just call out their lies, they held up a mirror that showed everyone exactly who this person really is when they think no one is watching. Your detractor thought they were the main character in a tale about how you wronged them. They believed they were the hero fighting against your success, the underdog deserving of sympathy and support. But the universe just revealed the true narrative. They were actually a minor character in your transformation, someone whose presence taught you discernment, whose toxicity motivated you to rise higher, whose attacks only served to make your light more visible to those who matter. The screaming match that happened over you wasn't really about defending your honor. It was about the universe declaring that your season of being misunderstood is over. You're moving into a timeline where your value is immediately recognized, where your contributions are automatically appreciated, where your presence is welcomed and celebrated without you having to prove anything to anyone. The most profound aspect of this entire situation is what it reveals about the power you've been developing through your spiritual growth. Your detractor's obsession with your destruction actually served as an inadvertent form of worship. Every lie they told about you required them to think about you. Every scheme they plotted gave you space in their mind rent-free. Every attempt to damage your reputation forced them to study your successes closely enough to find something to attack. But there's something even more disturbing that your defender discovered during their investigation. Your detractor hasn't just been casually monitoring your life through normal social media browsing. They've been engaging in what can only be described as digital stalking, a form of online gang stalking that goes far beyond healthy curiosity about an ex-partner or former friend. They've been creating fake accounts to bypass any blocks you might have put in place, using different devices and internet connections to view your profiles without leaving digital footprints, and even enlisting others to screenshot and report back on your activities. They've been studying your posting patterns, analyzing your content for hidden meanings, and building detailed timelines of your activities, like some kind of obsessed detective working a case that exists only in their mind. This level of monitoring requires an enormous investment of time and mental energy that could have been used to build their own life, pursue their own goals, or heal their own wounds. Instead, they chose to become a professional observer of your existence, living vicariously through your experiences while simultaneously resenting every moment of joy or success they witnessed. The relationship dynamic your detractor has been trapped in mirrors, something from developmental psychology, the phenomenon of parasitic twins in the womb, where one twin absorbs nutrients and energy from the other, growing larger and stronger while the other remains stunted and underdeveloped. Your detractor has been trying to maintain this dynamic even after your separation, attempting to continue drawing energy and attention from your life to feed their own sense of importance and relevance. But when you cut the energetic cords and removed yourself from this parasitic equation, the results were immediate and devastating for them. Without your energy to feed off, without your success to contrast themselves against, without your peace to disturb with their chaos, they found themselves face to face with the reality of their own emptiness. The incompatible relationship they've been struggling to maintain has been further complicated by the presence of children, innocent young minds, who've been forced to witness this toxic obsession. These children have become unwitting casualties in a war that should never have involved them. Your defender has watched in horror as these little ones learn to associate your name with shouting, tension, and adult behavior that makes no sense to their pure hearts. They've seen children run and hide when the obsessive conversations begin, clutching stuffed animals for comfort, while the adults in their lives lose themselves in bitter resentments that have nothing to do with creating a loving, stable home environment. The psychological damage being inflicted on these innocent minds has been one of the most powerful motivators for your defender to finally speak up. They realized that staying silent wasn't just enabling toxic behavior toward you, it was actively participating in the traumatization of children who deserve to grow up in households focused on love, growth, and positive future building, rather than revenge fantasies and past grievances. There's something particularly heartbreaking about watching children try to make sense of why the adults they depend on are more emotionally invested in someone who isn't even present than they are in the people who are right in front of them, asking for attention, love, and guidance. But here's where the prophetic elements of this situation become clear. You've been receiving downloads, intuitive hits, and spiritual guidance about the opportunities that are flowing toward you. The universe has been preparing you for a level of abundance and recognition that requires tremendous wisdom to navigate properly. The warnings coming through your spiritual channels aren't about whether you deserve this success. That question has already been answered by your consistent character and authentic growth. The guidance is about how to handle the responsibilities that come with increased influence and resources without losing yourself in the process. There's a very specific caution about avoiding the trap of hedonistic indulgence that can destroy even the most successful people when they suddenly find themselves with more money and freedom than they've ever had. The universe is showing you examples of celebrities and public figures who let newfound wealth go to their heads, who started spending recklessly, partying excessively, and losing sight of the values and practices that created their success in the first place. You're being advised to maintain the same spiritual disciplines, the same commitment to growth, the same connection to your higher purpose, even as external circumstances change dramatically. The key is to let the abundance enhance your ability to serve your mission rather than distracting you from it. The guidance coming through suggests that you'll need to be very selective about who you share details of your success with, not out of arrogance or secrecy, but because not everyone in your current circle is equipped to handle the news of your elevation without it triggering their own unhealed wounds around money, recognition, and achievement. Even people you trust, people who've been supportive during your journey, might surprise you with unexpected reactions when your success becomes undeniable. The universe is preparing you for the reality that some relationships will naturally fall away, not because anyone is bad or wrong, but because you'll simply be operating from different frequencies and focusing on different priorities. Your spiritual team is also warning you about the increased attention that comes with higher levels of success, attention that won't always be positive. There will be people who study your every move, looking for flaws, who analyze your choices to find something to criticize, who create elaborate theories about how you don't deserve what you've achieved. But you're being prepared for this scrutiny in a way your detractor never was prepared for, their smaller version of this experience. You're developing the spiritual armor, the emotional resilience, and the energetic boundaries necessary to maintain your peace and focus, regardless of external opinions or attacks. The timing of everything, the cord cutting, the confrontation, the exposure of lies, the flowing of new opportunities, has been orchestrated by forces beyond human comprehension to create the perfect conditions for your next level of service and impact. You needed to be completely free from the energetic drain of toxic connections before you could handle the responsibility of greater influence and resources. In their twisted way, they've been one of your most dedicated followers, tracking your progress more closely than some of your actual supporters. They've been providing you with free market research, showing you exactly which of your qualities trigger the most envy, which of your successes cause the most discomfort to those operating from lower consciousness. But here's the kicker that transforms everything. You've been growing stronger from their attacks without even realizing it. Every lie they told about you that people eventually saw through enhanced your credibility. Every false accusation they made that was proven wrong strengthened your reputation. Every attempt they made to isolate you from opportunities only served to connect you with better ones. You've been operating from a frequency so high that their negativity couldn't reach you directly. It could only bounce off your energy field and return to its source magnified. This is why their life has been falling apart while yours has been coming together. This is why their relationships are crumbling while yours are deepening. This is why their opportunities are drying up while yours are multiplying. The confrontation that just occurred was really the universe's way of showing you how thoroughly you've outgrown the need to defend yourself against people who operate from jealousy and fear. Your character is now so well established, your energy so consistently positive, your results so undeniably authentic, that truth speaks for itself without you having to say a word. The screaming match over you has revealed something that will change how you see yourself forever. You've reached a level of spiritual development where the universe itself fights your battles. You no longer need to engage with toxicity because higher forces are handling your protection and vindication automatically. Your detractors' world is burning down around them, not because you wished them harm, but because lies cannot stand in the presence of authentic truth. Their relationships are dissolving, not because you cursed them, but because deception creates instability that eventually collapses under its own weight. Their opportunities are disappearing, not because you blocked them, but because people with discernment can sense the difference between someone who builds and someone who destroys. The person who defended your honor during that explosive confrontation gave you more than vindication. They gave you confirmation that your authentic self creates allies, even in the most unexpected places. They showed you that when you operate from integrity, when you focus on growth rather than gossip, when you choose evolution over explanation, the universe raises up champions on your behalf. But the most powerful realization of all is this: the confrontation that just occurred wasn't really about you at all. It was about two people finally being forced to confront the truth about their own relationship, their own choices, their own character. You were simply the catalyst that brought their issues to the surface. Your success was just the mirror that reflected back their insecurities. Your peace was just the contrast that highlighted their chaos. You've become such a powerful force for truth that your mere existence exposes what's real and what's pretend in the people around you. This is the mark of a true chosen one, someone whose authentic light is so bright that it illuminates everything in its vicinity, forcing people to either rise to meet that frequency or reveal their inability to do so. The screaming match over you was actually a celebration in disguise, a cosmic acknowledgement that you've completed a major phase of your spiritual evolution. You've graduated from the school of hard knocks, earned your degree in discernment, and demonstrated your readiness for the advanced curriculum of conscious creation and purposeful living. Your season of having to defend yourself is over. Your season of proving your worth is complete. Your season of wondering if you deserve better has ended. You're moving into a timeline where your value is obvious, your purpose is clear, and your success is inevitable. The universe has spoken through the voice of someone brave enough to tell the truth about what they witnessed. The message is unmistakable. You are protected, you are valued, and you are destined for greatness that no amount of jealousy, lies, or manipulation can prevent. Welcome to your new reality, chosen one. The battle is over, the truth has emerged, and you stand victorious not because you fought, but because you evolved beyond the need to fight. Your greatest weapon has always been your authentic self, and now the whole world can see exactly why that makes you unstoppable.